morning and welcome. My name is Moni Singh, and I am the financial architect. I help people build their financial house on a bedrock foundation with tax-efficient walls and a debt-free roof, leading them to financial freedom through a unique, biblically based process called the GPS, which I'm going to explain in a few minutes. None of these words that I've used in this opening is random. Every one of them was carefully chosen, and they mean something, all right? So with that, let me open this session with a prayer, and not just any prayer, but one that comes from God himself. And how do I know that this prayer comes from God? Because it has his signature all over it. Timeless perfection. And since I cannot perfect perfection, I'm going to leave perfection alone. I'm going to just say the prayer the way it is. But I want to do so by being deliberately conscious of and by pointing out the 7 petitions that are in that prayer that are as relevant today as when they were first uttered some 2,000 years ago. Right? So here it goes. Do not close your eyes, because every time I say this prayer, people go into a prayer mode and they close their eyes, and I appreciate that. But there's a reason why I want you to keep your eyes open, and as I point out the 7 petitions, because you can make a connection there. All right? So we are in deep reverence to God, but we're going to say the prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Now, this is a very relaxed workshop. So feel free to ask questions, and we're going to be interactive. So I would like somebody to pick a number from 1 to 7. Anyone? 1 to 7, anyone? Pick a number. 7? Evil, okay? Deliver us from the evil one. Is there evil in this world? Is there evil in this world? Big time, right? I mean, in the current news right now, what's her name? The girl who got off with the baby that was found. You just have, if you read newspapers, or if you're plugged into the media, just watch news. Okay, those of us who are walking in the light, who've seen the light, cannot fathom this. Okay, parent, and I cannot fathom doing that to a child, but yet it happens, right? What happened there? It's because of evil. So, I mean, I don't have to underscore that there's evil. I mean, you just have to breathe in and breathe out, and you'll see it around you. All right? So, the Lord God of the universe, the Creator, our Creator, when he came to earth, right, when he was walking the earth, I mean, he said that prayer because he is the Creator, right? He knew what the core challenges and needs were going to be in every generation. Okay? So you can take any one of these 7, right, and bring it back to July the 15th. Bring it into July the 15th, 2011, despite the fact that it was uttered some 2,000 years ago. The relevancy. All right? Now with that, I'm going to tell you what the agenda is today. I'm just going to finish off these opening remarks. And then we're going to review the GPS. The GPS process has got 2 parts to it. Okay? The framework is the process itself. And every time you come here, in the first half, I will be reviewing the GPS. It bears repeating. I'm going to repeat it again and again and again and again and again until it becomes reflexive, until it becomes second nature. It becomes a part of your lifestyle. Okay, you can say it, you can roll it off just as easily as I can, because it's become mine. Okay, but it will remain mine until you take ownership, right? So hence it bears a repeat. The second half of each session will always be 21 core financial insights that I think people essentially need to know. Okay, now whatever field you're in, whether it's health or information technology or education, whatever field you're in, that's your area of expertise, right? I don't need to know medicine. I'm not a doctor, okay? But when I have a situation, I'll go see a doctor because he's the expert. You follow? And while this is true for other fields, it is not true for money for all of us, because all of us are affected by money. Okay? It's a real challenge to manage money and to build wealth. Okay? And we only have a limited amount of it. And I've identified 21 core financial insights that I think people need to know, because these are tools that you need in your toolbox. Because when you're confronted with a situation, you don't want to be at the mercy of merchants of money out there. Do you follow? You have some, at least you know how to ask the right questions. All right? Now, we're going to review the GPS. After the GPS, in the second half, we're going to talk about this is the 8th session at Faith Tabernacle, and this is one of the 21 core financial insights that I've identified. Tax efficiency. And tax efficiency, we've got 3 parts. This session will do tax-free income. Next session we'll do tax-deferred income, how to defer income, okay, unless you like paying taxes right now, and lots of it. And then finally, on the 3rd session, we will be doing tax rate. You've got to be aware of our progressive tax rates, at least get a sense of it. Then you'll know how to navigate and maneuver it a bit. All right? Then we'll talk about the action steps. Once I'm done with that, we'll close off with the action steps, which is a critical component of the GPS process. Because unless you implement, nothing happens. Okay? So this whole process was designed to really move you ahead financially. Okay? And as long as you stay committed to it, I guarantee you will move ahead. There's no way you'll miss out in this. Okay? Then we'll open for question and answer. I'll finish off with some closing remarks, and then we'll do a feedback and survey. Now, the question and answer, in previous sessions, I always left it to the end because I was not confident about finishing on time and whatnot, but I feel more confident now, like I've got a better handle on the structure of this. So feel free to ask any question if a question comes to mind. Okay, just stop me, put up your hand, and we'll deal with it. All right? Now with that, there are 3 things that you need to know about me. And I'm a very serious financial advisor, so there are 3 things that you need to know about me. The first one is I want to set the record straight. I never always had just this much hair. Okay? There was a time when I had a lot more. This was taken about 400 years ago in my 20s. And glory days, look at that. All right, the second thing you need to know about me is my unique ability. There's only one thing that I do well, and it has 2 parts to it. The first part is to get in front of people, individuals, couples, groups of people, and make people's financial future very clear to them. Because it seems to me there is a gap between where people are financially and where they want to be or where they should be. Okay? And unless they find a way to bridge and narrow that gap, it will continue for the rest of their lives, throughout their lives. And my suspicion is it's only going to get worse because people are too optimistic. Okay? They don't foresee things that are going to happen. So and this gap is the source and cause of all their financial stress throughout their lives. Okay? Which leads me to the second part of my unique ability, which is to help people bridge, narrow, and even eliminate that gap, okay? By giving them a clear financial direction in the form of a financial goal, by giving them a step-by-step process in the form of a financial plan, and by giving them a system to stay focused on the goal and on the plan. All right? So that's my unique ability. The third thing you need to know about me is what differentiates me from every other financial advisor out there. Now, this is my 27th year as a financial advisor, and I fought this like crazy. I didn't want to do this. And for the first 10 years, I didn't know what I was doing, but the bills got paid, and I just went on a roller coaster merry-go-round, okay? Until I sort of left the companies that I used to work for, went out on my own, a lot of struggle, but it gave me the independence to think for myself, okay? But eventually, I even discarded what was being taught out there to me by the financial services industry, because it's hit and miss at best, and you know, seems to me that I've been using a wrong map. Okay? If I'm in Halifax and I'm using the map of Toronto to navigate my way around Halifax, now that's why I can't find the street, you know, because I've been using the wrong map for the longest time. It's hit and miss sometimes. You know, you find a young street. Toronto has a young street. We have a young street, but you know, it's not the same young street. You understand? So until I changed my map, my road map, then I realized that, you know, there was something very wrong here. So what differentiates me from every other financial advisor is this. The GPS process that I developed is based on 4 biblical principles, okay, and that's the framework of it. The first principle is this, that we are not owners of all the resources that we have been entrusted with, okay? We are asset managers and we are stewards. And where does that come from? It comes from the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, where in verse 14 it says this, again, it'll be like a man going on a journey who entrusted his property, who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. Okay? Let me repeat that. Again, it'll be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. So all the resources that you have, including money, okay, does not belong to you. The breath, the days of your life, your time, your money, everything belongs to God. Okay? And until you make that mental shift, that mental paradigm shift in your mind, okay, your behavior and your attitude will not change. You follow? So that's the first principle, that we are not owners, but stewards of all the resources that we have been entrusted with. Okay? The second principle is this, that we are going to be held accountable for all the resources that we have been entrusted with, including money. Okay? And that again comes from the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, where in verse 19 it says this, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. Okay? So there's going to be an accounting. You know, in Haiti, the nation of Haiti had an earthquake, okay, on January the 12th. I know that because we were running a workshop in Charlottetown at that time. And there was a big, you know, we had to rearrange a lot of things. But today in Haiti, forget about the country in general, even their government buildings have not been restored, okay? There are young girls in Haiti who are living in tents, who cannot make it to the bathroom at night without getting raped, right? And we're almost 24 months away from there. So my point is this, okay? We're going to be held accountable. I cannot live in a house which has got 5 bathrooms, okay? Because I was blessed with a lot of money. When the young girls in Haiti, you know, cannot even make it to the bathroom at night, okay, to attend to nature's call. All right? So I'm just saying that, you know, be aware of this. You know, the Lord God is going to ask us for an accounting. Okay? Again, in Matthew 25, when he separated the sheep from the goat, right? He not only said, when did you feed me when I was hungry? When did you give me a drink? He said, when did I not do it? Okay, it went both ways. When did I do this? You did this when you did this to the least of this. When did I not do this? You did not do this when you did not do this to the least of this. Do you follow what I'm saying? So there's got to be an accounting. Now the third principle is this, that the slave, that the borrower is slave to the lender. And that comes from Proverbs 22:7. Okay? And hence, an essential step in the GPS process is to, if you are in debt, to get out of debt as quickly as possible, and we'll give you a mechanism to do that called the reverse debt snowball. All right? We're not just telling you, we actually show you how to do this. As long as you're committed, in time you'll get out of debt, and then we'll show you how to stay out of debt forever by building a 6-month emergency fund. Because people get into debt, well-meaning people who are not abusers get into debt because they don't have emergency funds, and emergencies will occur. Do you follow? All right. And the last principle is this, that, you know, we have to live within our means, okay? This world of ours has gone, crazy, has gone amok, okay? If you listen to what's happening right now with the U.S., in March, right? they were being threatened, the US government was being threatened to shut down because of their debt. Okay? And they're fighting to raise the credit limit, the debt limit. And 3 months later, 3 months later, we're in July, 4 months later, they're back in the same situation, trying to, sort of Band-Aid job did that, and they're here right now, okay, still fighting, trying to arrange to raise the debt ceiling, okay? Now, the principle is this, that you cannot live beyond your means, okay? If you make $1 and you spend $2, you are in the hole by $1, and this cannot go on, okay? People just, the day of reckoning is going to come, but, I'll deal with it when it comes. But it will come, right? So the principle is this, that you cannot live you have to live within your means. And the model that I've chosen to learn from is what God told Pharaoh some 3,500 years ago, when he told Pharaoh that the land of Egypt was going to have 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh asked him, what shall I do then? Through Joseph, of course. He said, take 1/5 from the years of abundance and keep it in reserve for the years of famine that are to follow, right? 1/5 is 20%, okay? So the takeaway lesson for me there is this, that if God financially counseled Pharaoh at a time of crisis, okay, to take 1/5 from the years of abundance and keep it in reserve for the years of famine that are to follow, where do we come off living on 100, 200, 500, 1,000% of our incomes because of the ready availability of credit? Do you follow where I'm coming from? You see where the problems are in the world? At every level, national level, corporate level, individual level, this is rampant debt. Okay? People are just living without ever since the 50s, ever since after the World Wars. Interestingly enough, the first credit card came about in 1957, New York. Frank McNamara, a fellow by the name of Frank McNamara, his idea was the jet set people weren't carrying too much cash. So he wanted to make it easy for them, and he went around to some restaurants and started this idea. Okay? And then it just took off. And based on profit and greed, today you can have 1 bankruptcy, 2 bankruptcy, 3 bankruptcies. We'll give you the credit. We'll find it somehow. Why? Because they'll charge you an exorbitant rate. All right? So the takeaway lesson is this. While you have time, while you have health, okay, in your years of abundance, while you're earning, take a minimum of 20% of your income and cycle and recycle it through steps 2 to 9 of the 10 steps to financial freedom, because sooner or later, you are going to run out of time and you are going to run out of health. It is not a question of if, it's a question of when, all right? And when people lose their health and they can, they're surprised. What business do you have in your 50s to take a 30-year mortgage? I mean, you really believe you're going to be working till you're 80? I mean, you're 75. Where are you going? I'm going to work. Why? I got 5 years more on the mortgage. Are you nuts? You know what I'm saying? Yet people do it, and the mortgage brokers do it to them. Okay? Why? Because that's how they make their money. You follow what I'm saying? Okay? So the entire GPS process is based on these 4 principles, and I'm very confident, okay, like I've never been more sure-footed and confident in what I'm doing and what I'm suggesting to people, because I know what I'm basing it on. I'm not basing it on some financial guru's theories, okay? I'm basing it on, eternal principles here. They will, if the Lord tarries, they will still be valid 1,000 years from now, okay? You cannot violate them. You cannot break these rules. You will only break yourself in the process. All right? Okay, with that, let me review review the GPS. I see a lot of new faces here, and so I'm very pleased that you are here, and perhaps you'll be hearing this for the first time. But nonetheless, for those of you who are regulars, it bears to repeating. Okay, like I said, we have to repeat this again and again until it becomes second nature. All right, the GPS. If you ever used printed maps, you know what a welcome innovation this is, right? Especially on some, night when you're trying to, with the dim light trying to find an address. If you don't know where you're going, or if you don't know how to get there, right? All you have to do is input the destination address into the GPS and follow the instructions. And in time, you will get there. So I thought this was a great metaphor for what it is I'm trying to do. Because people use a GPS when they are in unfamiliar territory. If I fly off to Calgary right now, hey, I don't know Calgary, okay? And if I want to get to where I want to go, the best thing to do is to follow the GPS. It's the safest thing to do because it's unfamiliar foreign territory. I'm out of my element. I'm out of my hometown, okay? For most people, okay, managing money and building wealth is a complete foreign territory, okay? And because of that, this can be very helpful, right? If you don't know where you're going, just follow the instructions. Now, I took it one step further and even changed the acronyms GPS from Global Positioning System to mean something different, where the G stands for a goal, and the goal is financial freedom. Now, in most cultures, this means good. This means very good. This means peace. And in election modes, this means victory, right? Let me give you a new one here today. This means financial freedom. And it's dynamic. Because life is dynamic, okay? One day it's you up, one day you're down, It's going to change. The only constant in life is change, right? The TUM, which starts with a T, stands for tithing. Okay? You've got to tithe, okay? And I keep this very simple. We can get into heavy-duty discussions after, but let's just keep it simple, all right? Tithe means give the first 10% of your income away to your local church. The index finger starts with an I. Okay? It stands for insurance. Make sure you are optimally insured for life and health insurance. Why? Because of the two dangers that threaten all 6.9 billion of us on the planet, okay? Which is running out of time and running out of health. All of us could leave here right now, okay, and not make it home. Okay? We could get up in the morning tomorrow and not be able to go out and earn our daily bread, okay, because of a situation, of a health situation, right? So make sure that you're optimally insured because those are the only two financial innovations that can address those two risks. Okay? By optimal insurance, I mean not under, not over, but just enough to maintain your lifestyle for you and for your loved ones who are dependent on your income. All right? Make sure you're optimally insured. The middle finger stands for becoming completely debt-free. Nada, zero. Okay? We don't do debt, period. Okay? If you have to take that, take it necessarily, take as little as possible, and pay it off as quickly as possible. Right? In keeping with Proverbs 22:7, because someday you'll live this fact that the borrower is slave to the lender, okay, when they start harassing you. The ring finger stands for emergency funds. Build a 6-month emergency fund. At the end of this session, or on your table there, you will have budget sheets. If you just put numbers on your budget sheet, you'll get an idea of what you need on a monthly basis. Okay? Make sure you have 6 months of that. Very conservative, 6 months, right? Now this is what is going to keep you out of debt. The guardrail that prevents you from falling into debt, right? And then lastly, we're going to build an investment portfolio of up to $10 million. Now, whenever I throw that number, $10 million, people's eyes go gaga. It's like saying, you're asking me to get to the moon. There's a reason for that, okay? Because you're going to invest, and stay frugal until you have a net worth of $10 million. People come into some money, and they think, they're rich, and they can spend the money, and before they know it, they're broke again, okay? Don't be in that position, right? It's like perfection. Spiritually, I want to become more and more like the Lord Jesus Christ. Will I ever be like him? No, okay? But I read my Bible, and I see the image of the Lord. Will I ever be like him? No, I know not in this lifetime, but it's a clear-cut direction that I have. Every day I'll take up daily. Even if I fall off my wagon, I'll get back on and I'll keep going. All right? All right. So this is the definition of financial freedom. Now, if you adopt this definition of financial freedom, this is counterculture and this is contrarian. Okay? You will be swimming against the tide. Go and tell your friends, your relatives, your co-workers, whenever you talk about this, they'll laugh at you. Okay? They'll tell you that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe. Okay? This is counterculture, this is contrarian. right? And if you adopt this, you'll be swimming against the tide. So an easy way to remember this is this. Tide, the word tide, T-I-D-E. Tithing, insurance, debts, emergency fund, okay? Then and only then do we go into investments. If you try to go into investments without doing the tide first, it's like trying to build a house without first putting in the foundation and securing the foundation. It wouldn't take much for it to come crashing down. All right? Now, the P in the GPS stands for, I used it to stand for a plan. And the plan is what I call the 10 steps to financial freedom. Now, here's how I got the 10 steps to financial freedom. I've got these 5 components of financial freedom, and all I did was I took the 5 components and I broke them into 2 steps each to give me the 10 steps to financial freedom. So step number 1 is to tithe, give away the first 10% of income. And where we are headed, in keeping with that principle that we are stewards and not owners, is step number 10, where we give away up to 90% of our incomes, okay? Right? Because I think, you know, God has something to say when he comes back, and if I live in a house with 5 bathrooms and the girls in Jacmel Hayachi could not even make it to the bathroom at night. No, they're sharing, 300 people are sharing one makeshift bathroom. You follow what I'm saying? So the idea here is, look, if you buy into that concept that we are stewards and not owners, okay, then at the end of the day, when you've cleaned up your financial act, you want to be giving away up to 90% of your income, okay? You have needs, and you know the Lord understands that, but beyond that, give it away, okay? Because this is not what we're about here, all right? Step number 2 is where we begin the process of optimally insuring, where we minimally insure, okay? Minimally insure means this. In your current situation, if you haven't started this process, make sure that, you know, whatever you can afford right now, you minimally insure for life and health. Don't bury your head in the sand. You know, the people to whom these things happen, okay, they're not children of a lesser God, okay? It just happens, all right? And it could be you, 1 in 3, 1 in 4. I mean, those are high numbers. I mean, there's a 99.99% chance that you're going to die. There's a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to get cancer. There's 1 in 4 chance that you're going to get a heart attack or heart problems, cardiovascular problems. There's 1 in a 20% chance, a 1 in 20 chance that you're going to get a stroke. You know, and yet we go about hoping that it doesn't happen to us, as though when it does happen to those people, that, you know, there's a reason why it happened. Okay? So minimally insure. Now that will be completed in step number 5, where we max it out to your current situation. Okay? Step number 3 is where we begin the process of building the 6-month emergency fund, where you build a mini emergency fund of up to $1,000. And what you do there is you just go into your local banking places, wherever you do banking, open up a savings account, and with every spare dollar that you have, put it in there until you've got $1,000. As soon as you've got $1,000 in your savings account, you've got your mini emergency fund. You can move on to step number 4, right? Now, going forward, once you have your mini emergency fund of $1,000, whenever there's an emergency, that's what you use, no longer credit. Okay? Because nowadays, people can't come up with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 without pulling out their credit cards, going in, or lines of credit, or going further into debt, right? If you're going to go into a different direction, you've got to start somewhere, okay? And this is where we start, right? $1,000 may not be much, and you might use it very quickly with just one mini emergency, and that's wiped out. Fine. You come back to this and fill this up, right? Step number 3 will be completed in step number 6, where we max it out to 6 months, right? Now, there's a reason for this progression, because it's cash flow, okay? And that big cash flow will be freed up in step number 4, which is called the reverse debt snowball. Now, there's one session out of the 21 sessions, and we've had ours, I believe, 2 sessions ago, 1 or 2 sessions ago, where we do the entire second half on the reverse debt snowball in detail. But at every session, because debt is so pervasive, I'm going to do a mini reverse debt snowball example here. All right, the reverse debt snowball works like this. You take all of the debts that you have, and all of us have some kind of debt, you know, credit cards, lines of credits, personal loans, car loans, overdraft protection. Gather all of your debt instruments, okay? Get the latest statements, right? Take a felt pen, a red felt pen, and circle the interest rate. If it's not clear what the interest rate is, call them up. Okay? Sometimes some of these documents, there's so much legalese, you don't even know what the interest rate is. If it's not clear, call them up, find out, speak to someone. What am I paying? What is it costing me annually in terms of interest? And put the interest rate down, okay? That's the first thing you're going to do. Gather your instruments, latest statements, okay? Accept the mortgage, because mortgage will be dealt with in step number 8. Okay? These are everything, all of your debt instruments except your mortgage. First thing you do, after you've gotten all the interest rates, is you call up the institutions, okay? Every one of them, and say, look, I'm paying 19% on my visa here, okay? I'd like you to reduce it. You know, what kind of lower rates do you have? Okay? Most, like the big financial institutions, have got at least a slew of 10 to 25 different kinds of credit cards, right? So just call them and say, look, I'm paying, and I just realized that I'm paying 19% on my credit card. I'd like you to give me one with a lower interest rate. What's the lowest you have? Okay. Now, if you've been a good customer paying your minimum payments on time and whatnot, there's no reason why they wouldn't switch you or even move it down, okay? And do it with a veiled threat that if you don't give it to me, I'm going to take my business to your competitor, that kind of thing, all right? Now, you'd be surprised that in 50% of the time, they will reduce the rate for you, okay? So here you are, been paying 19%, and suddenly they're going to reduce it to 11%, or if they have a 4.99% one, they'll say, sure, we'll switch you. We'll just change everything over, just roll everything over to that. It's silly, but that's the way it is, you know. So that's the first thing you do. And then the second thing you do is you arrange them after you've renegotiated, and you know, like it's worth a phone call, because the worst that they can say is no. And if they say no, you're not worse off. You're still where you are, right? And if they say yes, you just rearrange your package there, because one that was 19, you move it down. Now it's no longer 19. You follow? So it's worth the effort. So once you've done that, then what you're going to do is you're going to list all of these debts in 4 columns. Now this process is called the reverse debt snowball, and there's a reason for that. Because the way people accumulate debt is the way a snowball is built. Very little, okay? It just builds up. One, you know, you are a student at university, and they give you a credit card for $500 because you're a student and you don't have much money. And then as soon as you get a job, they increase it to $1,000. And then you take a mortgage, then you take a car, then while you're a student, you accumulate student loans. Before you know it, you have a mountain of debt, okay? So this process is where we say enough. We're going to stop it there, and we're going to reverse this. Okay? Reverse this slowly, you know, shrink it down, back to 0, okay? So what you do is you take 4 columns, and you list all of it. Can you all see this? Okay. First one is you list the payee, and I'm just going to give you a very simple example. The interest rate, the minimum payment, and then the balance. All right? So I'm going to just use a very simple example. Let's say this person has a visa on which they're paying 19%, 19.99%, which I think is the rate for Royal Bank right now. And let's say they have a $2,000, the minimum payment is $100, okay? And let's say they have a $2,000 balance, all right? Let's say they have a MasterCard, 18%, and the minimum payment is $100, and let's say that's also $2,000. Okay, let's say they have a car loan, 7%. And let's say the balance here is 20,000, and the minimum payment is 400, let's say, and let's say the balance here is 20,000. Okay, let me just give you an example. Now, everybody is different. In the example that we did 1 or 2 sessions ago, was a real life case, and that couple, he was 49, she was 44, and they had like 8 instruments, okay, excluding the mortgage. 2 lines of credit, 2 visas. They even had 2 city financials on which they were paying 35.99%, not knowing that they paid that until I pointed it out to them. Okay? Because when they called me and we just sat down and looked, I said, look, I need you to get all your debt instruments, and they did. And when we looked at it, and it was 35.99%. Isn't it insane that people would pay that? But they did. It was to tide them over in a financial situation that they had, because those balances were not big. One of them was $631, and the other one was like $2,500. They had a financial crisis, and so they went wherever they could get a solution, and City Financial was a solution at 35.99%. So once you've called your creditors, renegotiated the thing down, you've rearranged them in descending order of interest rates, you put them down like this. The first condition is this, that you have to double, once you've listed them in descending order of interest rates, okay, you have to take the first minimum payment, the highest minimum payment, and double it. Okay? So in this case, let's say this is 100, you double it to 200. Okay? Right? Now the question is, where am I going to get the $100? You find it. Okay? You find it in your cash flow, right? You know, some things have to go, but you need to come up with it, because we are going in a different direction here. Because if you're not committed to this, if you're not serious, it's not going to happen. Okay? So the minimum payment is 100. We're going to double it to 200. Whatever that minimum payment is, double it. Now, the second condition is that this bottom line, the total minimum payments throughout this whole reverse debt snowball process, must not and cannot change. Okay? Otherwise, this will not work. So in this case, you've got 2, 3, plus 4. The total minimum payment is 700. The total minimum payment is 700. Okay? And that does not change throughout the process. Okay? So let's begin the process. We've got a balance of $2,000, and we're paying $200 a month in the first minimum payment, right? Roughly, if I owe $2,000, now, sorry, back up a little. First condition was, no, the very first condition is that you freeze all of these balances, okay? That means to say that you cannot add another dollar to any of these, okay? So if these are your debt instruments, if you've got credit card, revolving credit, like credit cards and lines of credit, okay, first thing you do is you take those credit cards and put an elastic around it, open your freezer, and stick it in there. Okay? If it's not in your back pocket, you can't use it. Now, the reason why we do that is because you haven't paid them off yet. So stick it in your freezer, literally, symbolically freeze it. Okay? If you've got checks where you can write ATM cards, cut them up, throw them away, it's very scary to do this, because people who live on credit don't know, what am I going to do? I'm going to show you how you're going to. It's you know, you didn't start out with them. Okay? You don't, you know, you will live without them. You know, the world will not come to an end. And believe me, you might think the world would come to an end. It won't. Okay? So if you've got checks, lines of credit, tear them up. Okay? We're not going there, right? We're going to go in a different direction. So that's the first condition. The second condition is this, that you've got to double this. And the third condition is this minimum payment, this total minimum payment, does not change throughout the process, okay? Even as things get paid up. And that's what gets recycled, because as soon as we've finished step number 4, we're going to step number 5, which is maxing out the insurance, and it's the freed up cash flow from here that will enable you to max out your insurance. You follow? Now you've got the money to do it. So in this case, this fellow has $700 that's going towards debt. Now, just on that note, okay, the worst that I have seen, where I sat down with someone and we took all of their debt instruments, they were paying $3,300 a month in interest. $3,300. Okay? Total payments were about $6,000. Half of it was going to interest. And this person was just going about, you know, with the head in the clouds, as though, you know, hey, I'm making the income, so what's the problem? You know, I'm paying it. Here's what the problem is. $3,300 is like almost what? $36,000, $37,000, $38,000 a year. Can you not buy a brand new car every year for $38,000 and give away your 1-year-old used car to somebody who's needy, right? Versus giving away to these debtors. All right, $700. We begin the process. So I begin the process in the first month. I've got a balance of $2,000. I'm paying $200. Rough calculation. It's going to take me about 10 months, right? rough calculation, but really not really, because I've got 20% interest to deal with. Now, if you're doing this at home, or if you're doing this, go on, just Google for amortization tables, okay, loan amortization tables, and you'll get a host of them. Find one that you're comfortable with. Just plug in your numbers, and it'll give you a spreadsheet, an amortization table, showing you what the declining balance is, okay, at every point in time. Now, what you will find there is if the interest rate is 200, and you're making a minimum payment, you're making 200, the balance is 2,000, it's not 10 months. Probably 15, 16 months because of the interest factor, maybe even more. But I'm going to say 15 months, okay? I'm just going to factor the interest in simply. So instead of 10 months, let's say because of interest, this is 15 months. So in 15 months, right, this first line is gone, right? First, the visa is gone. Then what you do is that 200 that you were paying towards that visa, you add it to this one now. So this payment now becomes 300, okay, because the bottom line does not change, all right? Now, while I was paying, during those 15 months, while I was paying this, I was also paying my minimum payment on this. So that, I already paid $1,500 towards this $2,000 balance. So did it go down by $1,500? No, because there's 18% interest to deal with. So instead of going down by 1,500, let's factor interest in. Let's say 500 went towards interest. So this balance on its own went down to 1,000. Okay. So at the end of, in the 16th month when I begin this process, I'm starting with a balance of 1,000, and I'm paying $300. Okay. In theory, 100 divided by 1,000 divided in 3 months, this should be gone. But again, let's factor interest in. So instead of 3 months, let's say 6 months. Okay? So in 6 months, this is gone. So now I take the 300, add it to the 400. This payment now becomes 700. Okay? Now during those 21 months, when I was paying these two, I was also making a 400 payment on my car balance, right? So 21, that's 8,400 that I've paid towards my $20,000 balance. So did it go down by 8,400? Not really, because there's interest to factor in. So instead of going down by 8,400, again, roughly, okay, when you do it with an amortization table, you can do it more accurately. So let's say instead of 8,400, let's say it went down by 7,000. So on its own, this came down to 13,000, right? So now I'm paying $700 a month on a $13,000 balance. Now, my computer only goes to like 2 digits, so I have to use this. I was working with an 86-year-old once, client of mine, and she asked me to help her run some errands. So I said, sure, why not? So we went shopping, if you will. So she would, she has a hard time moving around, like mobility. At 86, mobility was a big issue for her. So she would, we'll stop by a shop. She'll give me $20. Okay, get me that, right? So once I ran into the shop, Planet Organic. I ran into the shop. She told me 1 or 2 things. I got her the things. So I got back in the car, and I gave her the receipt and the change. 86-year-old, right? She took the receipt, and she was mentally calculating to see if the change was correct. I looked at her and I said, people half your age would pull out a calculator first. All right, so 13,000, we're paying $700. So in approximately 18, 19 months, in theory, it should be gone. But because of interest, instead of 19 months, I'm going to say 30 months, okay? So in 30 months, this is gone, okay? So for this individual, if this is his, in this case, okay, 21 plus 30, 51 months, approximately 4.5 years, okay? This individual, if he stays focused with a single-mindedness, right, in 4.5 years, he's going to be completely consumer debt-free, okay? Is it going to be easy? No, okay? Because if you're used to instant gratification by using credit, going the cash route is going to be very difficult, okay? Because now you have to say no, right? Every time, you don't have the money. If you want something, you got to save the money to get it. The trips have to wait. you have to rearrange your vacation. It's no longer, but you are purpose-driven here, okay? You want to be completely debt-free. You follow? But you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, depending on what your situation is, okay, it could take anywhere from 6 months to 10 years for you to do this. But what's the alternative? If you don't do this, what's going to happen? Remember I said, that gap, chances are it's going to get worse over time, not better, because people don't, very often they're hoping all these wrong things don't happen to them, but they do happen, okay? And the needs are going to get worse, not better. So if this individual does not do this, right, 4 years from now, my suspicion is he's going to be in a worse situation, okay? And it's not going to get better, and it's going to carry on throughout their life. So coming back to the 10 steps. So this was step number 4, which is the reverse debt snowball. And this will be completed in step number 8, okay, where we now pull out your mortgage document if you have a mortgage, and for the first time look at all the prepayment privileges, okay? And now you've got the cash flow to do this. By the time you get to step number 8, because all we're doing is we're cycling and recycling money through these steps, okay? When you get to step number 8, you pull out your mortgage document, all the prepayment privileges, start using it, okay? At the anniversary, whatever top-ups they allow you periodically, use it. Accelerate the down payment of your mortgage, okay? Step number 7 is where we begin the process of building your $10 million tax-efficient investment portfolio. $10 million tax. Okay? And the way we start is by becoming tax-efficient. We begin with tax shelters, wherever you can make tax-free money, which is what these sessions are about. This particular session is on tax-free money. Wherever you can defer money. Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world, or second or third richest man in the world, depending on the on the period, okay, owes billions of dollars in capital gains taxes. Chances are they'll never be paid because of the legal structures that they've set up, okay? But that's the case because it's deferred. It's never paid those taxes. Probably will not pay them, okay? Why pay them when you don't have to pay them? You follow? All right. That step number 7, where we max out your RRSPs, your RESPs, and your TFSAs, all the tax shelters, will be completed in step number 9, where we invest, 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 and stay frugal, 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 until you have a tax-efficient investment portfolio of up to $10 million, right? So while I'm at this, let me just tell you how this really, really works, okay? The hard part are the first 5 steps. And if, depending on your debt situation, step number 4 is where you're going to get hung up, okay? Because the first 3 steps are very easy to do. They're very doable. Step number 1, tithing. If you're not tithing, sit down with your pastor, sit down with, your spiritual counselor, whoever it is, pray, take some time out and pray and get that resolved, okay? Once that's resolved, minimally ensuring, just call up a financial advisor and tell them, look, what does your company offer in terms of minimum insurance? And use that against what you can afford at that point. Okay? If you can afford $30, buy $30 worth. But don't bury your head in the sand. Okay? Don't just depend on your group insurance. Many people depend on their group insurances. If you ask them what are you covered for, they don't even know. Okay? And you don't want to find out all of these things in the aftermath, right? Address it. Take your head out of the sand. Address it. Okay? And do what you can within your means at that point. Okay? If $50 is all you can afford, then work with 50. It's a start. The $1,000 mini emergency fund. Okay? There's several ways of doing that. Like I said, find it from your cash flow. Squeeze it out of your cash flow. If you cannot find it from your cash flow, put up your hands if you're an employee for extra hours. If you are self-employed, do some extra, bring in some extra revenue. And if all of that doesn't work, okay, sell some things. All of us accumulate junk. Okay, look in your house. If in the last 6 months you haven't used something and don't plan to use it in the next 6 months, put it up on Kijiji. You'll raise $1,000 very quickly. All right? When you've done that, then you are into this debt snowball. And this is where there's a tendency that you might get hung up. Okay? You might get hung up depending on how deep you are. Okay? And that might take anywhere from 6 months to 10 years, depending on your situation. But stay at it, okay? Because you need to do that. Now, once that's done, however long it takes, maxing out the insurance is not a big deal, because what you started here, you just call the agent up, call the broker up, and say, look, now I've got the money, let's max this out, okay? Because the cash flow is freed up from, in this case, this fellow has $700 more to spend a month. Okay, before he goes on a road trip or uses it for something else, we're going to cycle and recycle it through this. All right. These first 5 steps, once you've done them, okay, once you've done the hard work, once you've stayed focused and you've done them, they are done. Okay, this bridge is burned. You never have to go back there. Okay, going forward in life, you'll be hovering between step 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is 10 is just giving. You just wait for what the Lord puts on your radar and you just give it away. Okay, but really you'll be hovering between step 6, 7, 8, and 9. Why do I say that? Because once you've maxed out once you've got momentum, okay, you are motivated by the momentum. And that's true in anything, okay, whether you're trying to go on a diet, be fit, or build better relationships. Once you build momentum, this will go very fast. You've done this, you're into this, 6 months built up, you max out your RRSPs, RESPs, and TFSAs, and those, there are limits on them. That you cannot put as much as you want. There's only so much you can put. Once you've done that, you work on your mortgage and, however long that takes, okay? But going forward, what can happen is life can throw curves at you. I'm working on my mortgage, paying off my mortgage, and suddenly, boom, 1, 2, 3 emergencies occur. Then I have to go and use up my emergency fund, right? Whenever you use up your emergency fund, you suspend all the other steps and go back and replenish it to 6 months, okay? So let me, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here, like if it sinks from a conceptual to an emotional level. My rule of thumb is this, that if you are one individual, okay, a single person, at a minimum, bare bones minimum, you need $1,000 a month for needs: food, shelter, transportation, clothing. Okay? I don't know how you can do it with anything less than that. If you're a couple, double that, $2,000 cash in hand a month for food, shelter, transportation, clothing. If for every 3rd person in the household, add $500. So if you're a family of 4, easily $3,000 a month. Okay, 6 times that is $18,000. This is what I'm talking about. An emergency fund of $18,000, where an emergency comes up, the car breaks down, the roof goes, there's a medical crisis, whatever. Okay, your stomach doesn't turn in knots because you're wondering, where am I going to get the money? Okay? Or especially when you're maxed out, all the lines of credit, everything is maxed out, and now you've got a crisis. What am I going to do? You follow what I'm saying? Never want to be in that position. Always keep the emergency fund topped up, liquid, accessible. It's not an investment. Okay? There's a difference between savings and investments. Investments, Warren Buffett, he says when you buy investments, when you buy shares, make it one way. Okay? Measure twice, cut once, and then, don't come back. That's how he made his money, and this is why he's on the Forbes list of billionaires. All right? So, going forward, you'd be hovering between these. Okay? If there is an emergency, you suspend whatever you're doing, whatever step you're at, you go back, you replenish it. Once you've done this 5, this is where you've only got 5 steps going forward in life. Okay? And if you are one of those fortunate people, because not many people will be able to do this. I met somebody in his early 30s recently, and when we sat down, in 15 years, he'll clear the step. Provided he doesn't increase his lifestyle, drastically, okay, because of the kind of income that he's going to be making very shortly, right? Now, for some people, it's possible. For successful, self-employed people, it's possible. If you run a successful business, okay. Warren Buffett, since 1965, I assume you know who Warren Buffett is. I'm just throwing out the name, okay? But I'm assuming most of you know who he is. Since 1965, from his holding company called Berkshire Hathaway, he's been taking out a salary of $100,000. What does the CEO of Royal Bank make? Total package, something like $10 million, right? You see? So, if you are frugal, okay, and there's no reason, and especially if your values are eternal, you'll understand that, our treasures are not built here, okay? It's easily done. It accumulates very fast. And again, with that mindset that this is not for you, and as the Lord puts things on your radar, give it away in step number 10, all right? Okay? The S in the GPS stands for a system, and the system is to meet for 2 hours every 90 days, where we take a minimum of 20%, either privately or publicly, where we take a minimum of 20% of your income and cycle and recycle it through steps 2 to 9 of the 10 steps to financial freedom. So again, let me just repeat that. The G is the goal, financial freedom. The P is the plan, the 10 steps to financial freedom. And the S is the system to stay focused on the goal and on the plan. Okay? I've done this for 27 years, and my experience has been that there's a human factor involved here. Okay? People come, people hear, but they don't implement, they don't do. Why? Because life happens. Okay? They get distracted and they get caught up with other things. So I developed this as a means to keep you focused. Okay? Not asking you a lot. I'm asking you 2 hours every 90 days, which is 8 hours out of 8,760 hours a year. If you take 24 hours a day, multiply it by 365, you get 8,760 hours a year. I'm asking you 8 of those hours every 90 days, 2 hours, so that can help you stay focused on the goal and on the plan. If your financial future is important to you, you will invest that time. All right? All right, with that, let's do the commercial break.
Das hier ist ein Mindset. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät, das du findest. Das ist das Überlebensradar.
German Coast Guard. What are you thinking about?
All right, 5 minutes break, 5-10 minute break, and then we'll come back and do the call for nations. Welcome back. Before we go on, just a few things. I wanted to bring your attention to the book table that's in front. These books are for your taking. You will notice on the action steps towards the end that we recommend certain books that you read, which we think are very helpful in this process, because this is where some of my ideas came from. All right? So do read these books. And what I've done is I've made it a point to try to get them as cheaply as I can for you, and we give them free of charge, okay? Including the DVD, some of the DVD tapes that we have of the previous session. So feel free to take them. All right? Now, the other thing that I wanted to, I forgot to mention in the reverse debt snowball is I talked about 4 conditions. The first one being that you have to freeze the balances. Second one is that you have to double the minimum payment. Third is that you have to keep the total minimum payment the same throughout the process. The fourth condition is that as you pay these things off, remember we took the Visa and the MasterCard, we put them in the freezer. As soon as this got paid in the 15th month, you call them, cancel it, okay? Make sure that it's well documented that you want that account canceled, right? And the reason for that is this. I met a lady once, and she very proudly told me that I have 2, 3, 4 credit cards, and you know, there's a total of a $61,000 limit on it, but it's all got 0 balances, right? I said to her, go and cancel them. Why? Because if there is a hole, right, there's a good chance that you will fall into it because of, you know, we are human beings, okay? You will fall into it. But if you cover up that hole, you won't even fall into it in a stupor. You know, you could be half asleep and you still won't fall because there's no hole to fall into, right? So as far as these credit cards are concerned, the workaround is this: our society is such that you do need credit cards. Okay? You can't rent a vehicle without producing a credit card. You can pledge your firstborn, but they want a credit card. So the workaround is this. There are things called prepaid credit cards, which were meant for people who could not qualify for credit. Okay, this was people to help them rebuild it. We're going to use it creatively. If you go to bmo.com, under the credit card section, you pull that tab down, you'll see all their credit cards, and one of them will be a prepaid travel MasterCard. Apply for it. There's no credit check. They'll just check your identity, and in 2 weeks you'll get it in the mail. It'll have take cash and load money on it. As soon as you load money on it, it'll eat up the first $9.95. Okay, this is the privilege for having this card available to you. But wherever MasterCard is accepted in the world online, you can use that. But this time when you use that MasterCard, you'd be using your own money and not someone else's money, and all you've paid for that privilege is $3.33 a month. That beats paying 19% or 35% on a monthly basis to somebody else. for the privilege of using their money. Okay? The second workaround is in the US, there's something called Visa debit and Visa credit. In Canada, for the longest time, we only had Visa credit and our convenience cards. The problem with that is, you could not use your convenience card when a Visa was required, right? So CIBC, which is very avant-garde, they are always trying to play both sides of the street. They came, because the banks don't want to promote these because that's not where they make their money. Okay? But CIBC always wants to play both sides of the street. 14 years ago, they came up with PC Financial. Okay? And PC Financial is a no-fee banking service. How many of you have PC Financial accounts? Excellent. The rest of you enjoy paying fees to banks, and that's why they're making billions of dollars of profit. PC Financial, if you go and open a checking account there, you pay no fees. You get free checks, okay? And wherever you can use all the CIBC branches for ATMs, and there's no charge. So use it, okay? And so CIBC likes to play both sides of the streets, and say they're the first ones who came up with a Visa debit. If you go into a CIBC branch and open a checking account, the cheapest checking account, which is like $3.90, they'll give you 10 transactions. Tell them you want a Visa debit attached to that, right? So instead of giving you a convenience card, they're going to give you a Visa debit, right? So wherever Visa is accepted, you can use that. Except that when you use that, you would be using your own money and not Visa's money. So for that privilege, you pay $3.90 a month. Big deal. Okay, you're paying like $48 a year. That's your cost. You'll never be in a position where you're paying 19% interest to someone else. All right?